this video, we're diving deep into the concept of healthy boundaries and why it's one of the most effective ways of cultivating self-respect and balanced relationship dynamics. In addition, I'll be providing 5 practical steps of setting healthy boundaries and 4 possible boundary scenarios you may encounter on your healing journey. With that, let's dive straight into the video. Hi, my name is Anna Segura, and I am an energy medicine practitioner specializing in shamanic healing and hypnosis. So today we're going to be talking all about boundaries, and it's about establishing clear limits that ensures mutual respect and understanding in our relationship dynamics. It's a form of self-respect and self-protection from people and patterns of behaviors that are harmful to our well-being. And this is especially important after recovering from traumatic life events and/or spiritual awakenings. Through those experiences, you become so hyper-aware of your own emotions and the emotions of others, and even overly empathetic to your detriment. The most unfortunate things that I've come to terms with is how cruel human nature can be, especially when you're on a spiritual path or even as you heal. People will often try to take advantage of you, your kindness, and empathy, feeling entitled to your time and energy. And some people may even try to make you feel like you are beneath them. And they have this odd expectation that you should be tolerating bad behaviors and put others above yourself, making you feel less than. But that is not what the spirit world expects of you. I want to be very clear about that. One of the first things that the spirit world taught me and really ingrained in me was the fact that no one is above you and no one is below you. You are not meant to be abused or taken advantage of. They taught me that we can be kind and compassionate, and we can also be fierce when we need to be. Being spiritual is to be balanced, honoring both our light and healed shadow qualities. And once you get to that place of balance, it is a very powerful combination to embody, but it's tricky. And it takes practice and a lot of self-awareness. It starts with small yet intentional steps. And these experiences serve an important purpose, right? It teaches you discernment, the ability to discern who is deserving and worthy of your compassion, gifts, and kindness, and who should be ultimately denied access. They need to be very respectful of your time and energy, but in order for that to happen, you need to learn how to respect and love yourself first. Now, with that baseline understanding, let's move on to the 5 practical steps you can take to cultivate healthy boundaries. Number 1, reflect on areas of your life where you feel less than or taken advantage of. Make a list of people and circumstances that make you feel resentful or underappreciated, and be specific. Acknowledge all of them with self-compassion. Get familiar with them. In addition, educate yourself about toxic behavioral patterns, starting with emotional abuse tactics used by narcissists, sociopaths, and Machiavellians. Learn as much as you can about manipulation tactics, gaslighting, love bombing, devaluation, triangulation, breadcrumbing, the list goes on. And if you're watching this video, most likely you are a magnet for these types of abusers and manipulators. The great news is knowledge really is power, and you gotta know what you're dealing with before you can learn how to protect yourself. I'm going to list out a couple of my favorite resources and books that really helped me get started, and I encourage you to ask God, your angels, and your spirit team to help guide you to your own set of resources and getting up to speed. And if you are able to seek professional support, stick around for step number 5 for some tips around that. Number 2, Make a list of anything you will and will not tolerate in your relationships. On a sheet of paper, draw a line down the middle. On one side, label it as okay, and on the right side, label it as not okay. And just like negotiation, you need to know what you are willing to accept, what you are willing to work with them on, and what you are not okay with and are willing to walk away from. Number 3, communicating your boundaries. And I'll be honest, this is going to be the hardest part out of all the steps, and it's going to take time and a lot of practice. Sometimes you have to get comfortable making people uncomfortable, especially when they're harming you. So take all of the stuff that you are not okay with, and for this step, turn it into if this, then that statements. You're essentially creating a little cheat sheet for yourself that you can use to practice on your own. So basically, if this happens, then I'm going to be responding by saying this or by doing this. But you also have to recognize that sometimes you have to walk away and know that that is a perfectly acceptable option for you if it comes to that. People that actually care about their relationship with you will respect your boundaries and will make an effort to ensure that your needs are met. Reciprocity in relationships is not a nice to have, it is a must have. Remember that. Tip number 4 is saying no, and it can be very uncomfortable, especially in the beginning, but the great news is we have all of the tools from the prior steps for you to practice with. No is not a taboo word. It's an empowering one. Get comfortable with saying, no, I can't. No, I'm not comfortable with that. No, I'm not able to make it, but maybe next time. No, I can't talk right now, but I'll let you know as soon as I'm able to. The list goes on. Whatever sounds natural and comfortable for you to practice with, just make a list of different variations of saying no. And I promise you, the more you practice by verbalizing it, it's going to get easier and easier. Your subconscious mind has to register it and get familiar with it. And you have to give yourself permission to use it, that it's okay. And before you know it, it's going to be very natural and it's going to feel very comfortable for you. Number 5, relationship dynamics are very tricky to navigate on your own. If you need professional support, you're not alone and it's perfectly okay. Here are some ways to get you started. First, if therapy is accessible for you, find therapists that are very well versed in areas that you're needing help with, and make sure you feel comfortable with them and feel safe around them. And give yourself permission to keep looking until you find the right person. The most important thing is resonance, expertise, and emotional safety. Keep looking until you find the right one. You'll know when you do. And I have a lot of respect for the role of therapists and experts in the field. And I think it's really important for you to seek out support when you need them. Second, there's also spiritual and energetic aspects to boundaries and boundary violations that you've been experiencing. Energy medicine practitioners can also be an excellent complementary modality for you to consider. In addition, hypnosis is also a great modality for you to explore because often our conscious mind registers red flags and wants to respond a certain way, but our subconscious mind has these deeply rooted automatic responses that will literally hijack what you planned on doing and saying even before you realize what had just happened. It's like the responses are coming out and you're going, no, that's not what I wanted to say or do. So why did I do that? It's actually a really common experience and points of frustrations for people. The subconscious mind is so powerful, and that's actually going to be the topic of my next video because I want you guys to understand how our subconscious mind works and how it contributes to the complexities of being human. So it's incredibly powerful and so complementary to any type of energy work or therapy work that you may be pursuing. If shamanic healing or hypnosis is something that you are interested in learning more, then check the description below to either book a consultation call or to book a session. Now, with that said, here are some scenarios that you may encounter in your healing journey and some possible responses for you to consider and practice with. Number one, if you are feeling pressure to do something that you no longer feel aligned with, or alternatively, you're asked to engage in activities or conversations you're either not comfortable with or don't have the energy to participate in. But try starting with something like,
I know you all enjoy this, but it's really not my thing anymore. Or you can say, I'll pass this time, but maybe I can join you next time. Or, I can't right now, but I'll let you know when I'm able.
different variations of that. So it doesn't have to be abrasive. You can say it in a very kind manner. Find a variation of a response that you feel comfortable with and practice it over and over again until it feels natural and easy for you to pull from in your boundaries response toolbox, if you will. Scenario number two. Let's just say that you have someone that is feeling entitled to a lot of your time and energy, and it's making you feel really drained. So if it's essentially a phone call, then,
I'm unable to talk right now, but I'll let you know when I'm able to.
and that's really all you might need to say. Another scenario, if you are someone who is incredibly empathetic and a lot of people tend to gravitate to you, one of the things that can happen is they may start reaching out at all hours of the night and they're lacking basic respect for what is acceptable. In this case, is to tweak your do not disturb settings around specific hours that you don't want to be disturbed and get back to them at a reasonable hour the next day. And you obviously want to make exceptions for emergency scenarios because that can happen. And so obviously, like for iPhones, I know there's different settings that you can set to account for situations like that. But the basic premise here is to utilize the do not disturb settings on your phones to set that time boundary to what you are willing to accept and not accept. Okay. And if you notice that they're constantly calling you or texting you at all hours of the night, and it's a very frequent thing, I think it's also acceptable for you to communicate that your preference, if it's not in the case of emergencies, is to receive those communications no later than, X time, whatever that threshold is for you. But other than that, if it's just infrequent, then I think utilizing the do not disturb settings and responding at a decent hour the next morning is perfectly fine. So this is probably the hardest one to navigate and a hard pill to swallow on your healing and spiritual awakening journeys is disrespectful comments and or backhanded compliments. And the more you heal and level up in various aspects of your life, you'll notice that this will become more prevalent from people, especially people from your past. So whether it's a friend that is making backhanded compliments about your achievements or any actions you're taking to improve yourself or taking steps towards your dreams and aspirations, I find that this is often rooted in deep-seated insecurities from those individuals and they're feeling threatened on some level. So just kind of keep that in mind. Sometimes it's not intentional. It's like they're not even aware that that's what they're doing. And some of the responses I'm about to share can take care of that. But sometimes the underlying energy is one of envy and it's going to feel more like bullying, especially if it's attempted to devalue you and undermine your accomplishments or whatever it is that they're making comments about. And the bad thing about this is negative energies that are often accompanied by this. So if this is the case, removing yourself may be the best option to protect yourself and your energy. And truthfully, if they can't show up correctly to uplift you, to support you, to celebrate you, because they know how hard it was for you to heal and make the progress and even take the steps that you've been able to take. And despite all of that knowledge, they have the audacity to treat you that way. They don't deserve access to you, especially if you've been there for them, if you've genuinely supported them and they're incapable of doing the same for you. That is a one-sided relationship. They're just using you. They don't deserve you. And unless they do some deep inner work required to truly love themselves, these types of people can't stand anyone doing better than them. And they will sabotage whatever progress they're perceiving you to be making. It's harmful. Let them go. So, with that said, some responses for you to consider if it is a relationship you want to at least attempt to see if they will respond positively. So, you may try saying something like,
When you say things like that, it feels like you're really not that happy for me. And I think it's really important for us to genuinely support each other, as I am with you. Then, pause and see how they respond. It's going to be very telling. Another thing you can consider is after they make their little comment, you can just pause and ask, that doesn't really sound like a genuine compliment. What are you really trying to say? Another one, a little bolder, a little stronger. Again, pause and state, why do you feel comfortable talking to me that way? Or, why do you feel so comfortable being disrespectful to me?
and another one is just simply don't respond, don't acknowledge it. Not acknowledging that comment also sends a strong message without feeding into their desire to get some type of a reaction out of you. Because some of them, that's exactly what they're looking for. They want to upset you. They want to know that comment got under your skin. So,
Just be unbothered.
because you already know the underlying reasons for their behavior, they need to work on themselves. So keep doing you and don't let them bring you down. And if your gut is telling you you've already communicated and it persists and it's starting to feel harmful or malicious, it's time to remove yourself, revoke their access to you. In most cases, people that do this repeatedly, almost kind of like bullying, they know exactly what they're doing and won't even question or ask what's going on. And that's how you'll know they didn't deserve you. Another scenario, somewhat similar but slightly different, is people behaving competitively or displaying superior behavior at your expense. So let's say you share whether it's an accomplishment or something good that had happened. They're either going to try to one-up you constantly or even attempt to triangulate you by comparing you with someone else in an attempt to undermine or devalue whatever accomplishment or whatever topic that is at hand. And they always want to act like they're better than you. Those are not your people. The only response with people like that is to revoke access and just kind of let it be their loss. But if you want to attempt to salvage, maybe a possible response might be,
I feel like our conversations often turn into competitions, but my only competition is myself, and I would love for us to find ways to celebrate each other's successes and accomplishments.
and see how they respond. Last but not least, invasion of privacy. I think sometimes people get really accustomed to the down and out version of your life. And so when they notice that you're a little more upbeat, that you've had a glow up, and you seem to have more of that pep in the step, they're gonna want to pry and they're gonna want to get some tea in terms of what might be going on. And if it's someone that you trust, no, absolutely. And if it's a genuinely supportive relationship, then of course you're gonna want to share it and it's not gonna be a boundary issue. But if it's one of those other people that we've shared and you're noticing they're kind of like looking for information to pry and potentially even weaponized against you at a later point in time, because they can. It's not just vulnerability that they try to weaponize, but even something good that you're doing, they're going to find a way to mock it and gossip and discredit you with other people. So kind of keep that in mind. Those are not safe people. So if it's an invasion of privacy and you're not comfortable sharing the details that they're requesting, you don't have to answer anything to anybody that you're not comfortable with. Just because they ask doesn't mean they're entitled to an answer. It could be something very simple and say,
I'm not ready to talk about that right now, but I'll let you know when I can. Simple.
ultimately, for one, practice makes perfect. So knowing the people and the circumstances that you're encountering, being very familiar with them, knowing what to expect, what you are okay with, not okay with, what you're willing to work with them on, and that hard line on when you know you're going to walk away from and you just absolutely cannot tolerate it, especially situations that are harmful to your well-being or it's comments that are at your expense. Walking away is always an appropriate option. And it doesn't have to be dramatic or combative or confrontational. Just remove yourself from people that are hell-bent on disrespecting you and or devaluing you, especially when you've given them an opportunity to be more self-aware and be more respectful. A lot of times they will double down. So be prepared for that. It's not you. They're just showing their true colors. And just know that you deserve to be surrounded by people that genuinely value you and love you and are not afraid to lift you up and celebrate you. Make room for those people, even if that means spending a little bit of time alone for a while. There's actually real power in that. Rocking alone until you find your tribe is a vibe on its own right. You got this. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more videos just like this in the future. And if you're interested in shamanic healing or hypnosis services, links are provided in the description below. I would love the opportunity to support you on your healing and spiritual journey. So with that, thank you so much for watching and I'll see you in my next video. Take care.